Sorry, I'm getting a call from spam likely.
So many.
So many. I think really in this week, it's like really ramped up, and I wonder what happened. What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a grown man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid. I read them as an adult because I was determining if it was a series that society had been sleeping on. I said yes, and now I'm seeing if society has also been sleeping on the sequel series, the Heroes of Olympus books. And now we are joined for a very special episode. It's the classic... I don't know how to call it because it doesn't happen at a regular time interval, but it happens at a regular reading interval. And I usually take about 6 months to cover a book on this show. So let's say it's our regular biannual, but not the biannual that means every 2 years, the biannual that means twice a year, chat with a person who knows way more about mythology than me. It is our myth correspondent, Dr. Moiya McTier, who you might know from their wonderful podcast work, their wonderful book work, including the upcoming, now titled, Mothers of Invention. It is Dr. Moiya McTier. Dr. Moiya, how's it going?
Mike, it's going great. Thanks for that introduction and what inspired me to now want to go on like a linguistic rabbit hole. Because why? Why isn't there a clear word for twice a year?
It's so strange. The biannual, biweekly, bi-monthly. I don't understand people who invented language in general, but especially when they're like, how about a word that means two completely different things? But not like sea and sea, where one is the ocean and one is to look. And those are also spelled differently, but this is just straight up. It's the same word that means effectively the opposite.
Right. It's like nonplussed or extraordinary. Like if you, that has two completely opposite meanings.
Right. Or if it's like the next level past unhelpful of how invaluable just means valuable. Like, oh, it's so valuable that it doesn't have value. Like, what are we doing?
Or inhabitable, which comes up a lot in my work on planets.
Well, this could be the episode, but we do have an agenda that the people have clicked download or stream on. So let's give the people what they want. We're going to be talking about a bunch of the mythological things that came up in the second Heroes of Olympus book, which is called The Son of Neptune. Now, I think you've been on enough that we've asked you a lot of the different guest returning questions, but I don't think we've asked you the one about if you had a new Riptide. So this is one that a listener came up with. Basically, Percy has Riptide, which is a pen that turns into a sword. We, as not demigods fighting off giant monsters, don't necessarily need to have weapons on us, but sometimes we need to have chunkier, bigger items on us. So if you had a small inanimate object that turned into a bigger inanimate object, what would you have? Past answers include earrings that turn into headphones, or mine is a friendship bracelet that turns into my laptop so that I don't have to always be carrying around a heavy thing in a backpack.
Ooh, that's so smart. I think I'm going to keep it the traditional path and say that I want a ring that turns into Xena's chakram.
Xena, like the Xena warrior princess?
Yeah, like that ring weapon she has that she throws around like a boomerang and it slices through people and then always returns back to her perfectly. I want that, but it turns into a ring when I'm not using it.
I really like it. I did have to Google it, and it does look like one of those cool Frisbees that super duper Frisbee guys have, where it's like, oh, I like Frisbee so much that I'm throwing this one that's just a disc with no center in it. Xena is fun because I feel like for me, it's of the age where I was too young to like actually watch it, but definitely saw a lot of commercials of it. And I don't know if my parents ever explicitly said don't watch it, but I think just based on like her armor outfit choices, I feel like as a kid, I just knew like, you're not supposed to watch this show. You shouldn't turn it on.
That's adult armor.
That is, there's not enough of that on her. Don't watch that. What if I'm a dead sea?
That's wild because she is so covered compared to like superhero characters of today. It's Gabrielle who gets, increasingly nude as the series goes on, which I've always loved.
Well, when I, make a Xena podcast 70 years from now, when I really need to, bolster up my retirement accounts, I will. I will circle back and have you as a guest. But,
Please, dude, I'm there.
Oh, cool. But let's get into the myth stuff. I did what I always do, which is I go through my notes, I control F for Dr. Moiya, and then I send you an email of all the times I wrote on my notes, Dr. Moiya, with a question mark. So first up, there's a point in the book where they fight off the carpoi, the spirits of the grain. Is there any mythological stuff you could find about the carpoi?
Yes. I don't think that there are figures who are actually called the carpoi, but there is a figure named Carpo. So I imagine Uncle Rick took that figure and then, as is often the case with a group of nymphs or spirits or something, he based their name off of that one character. So Carpo is a minor goddess of the fruits of the earth. Carpo means fruiting in ancient Greek.
Okay, cool.
She was one of the Horai, which are goddesses of seasons and time. So there's one for each season, there's one for each hour of the day, sometimes one for each month of the year, but it's an umbrella term for all of these different timekeeping spirits. Parents for Carpo are usually listed as Zeus and Themis, and so not Gaia and Tartarus, as I think was explained in the book. But some people think that Carpo may have been a different title for the goddess Demeter. So not a separate character completely, but got separated from this title for Demeter. Yeah, that's what I learned.
Okay. Who did you say the parents were again? Not like that the book said?
Zeus and Themis.
Themis. Is that like one of Zeus's pre-Hera wives? Right?
Yeah. I think that Themis is one of the other titans that Zeus had some children with.
Okay. A quick Google says that they are the goddess of wild things and the protector of caged animals.
Love. A lot of caged animals need protection from Zeus,
yeah,
so I'm glad they know each other.
Also seeing they are the ancient Greek goddess of justice, law, and order. So that's pretty cool. Oh, okay. That's so interesting with having a goddess for every single hour of the day. So, is there a 4 a.m. goddess? Because she's probably wild. Because 4 a.m. can always hit that, I'm up until 4 a.m. Whoa. Or I had to wake up at 4 a.m. Ugh.
Yeah, the wee hour Horai, I think, are the fun ones. If you need to go out, you're going out with the 3 and 4 a.m. Horai.
Yeah, 3 a.m. seems safely you're still going out. 4 a.m. you are entering into, I have a 6:30 a.m. flight, so I should probably be waking up at 4. And then you're in that weird middle ground, especially where I am now with having a little baby where you're just like, do I pull the all-nighter? Do I sleep for 45 minutes?
Oh, no. I'm sure you're so well acquainted with the Horai now. All of them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe if I do have more sleep deprivation, I'll meet one of them.
Your eyes will blur. You'll see a figure emerge from the clock. Yeah.
Cereal starts coming out of the box. It's me. No, I got to give a shout out to our baby. She's a pretty good sleeper. She does have her nights where she wakes up early in the morning, but I'm not trying to toss her under the bus. I know a lot of people like to throw their children into the whole oh yeah, my sleep's horrible, blah, blah, blah. It's has my sleep been taking a hit? Yes, but not as bad as some horror stories make it out to be. So
right.
Shout out to the little
and
one.
On average, worth it.
Oh, gosh. Oh, for the cuteness alone. Oh, she's adorable. You can wake up. She doesn't know anything. Life's confusing. You can wake up at 4 a.m. crying. I get it.
Look, I do that now.
Totally.
And I know things.
We know.
Yeah, I understand.
So many things. All right, next up. Around this same time in the book, we have a fun situation where when Percy and his new Roman demigod-based friends see a group of enemies, they see centaurs. And that's surprising because in our history with the Percy Jackson series up until this point, centaurs are the good guys. We love Chiron. We love the party ponies. But these centaurs have bull horns. And I was wondering, are centaurs with bull horns some sort of thing? Is that a Roman versus Greek thing? Or was Rick like, I need to make these be the bad guy centaurs. Let's give them horns, because horns are bad sometimes.
Right. Let's differentiate. It is a thing. There are bull-horned centaurs in Greek mythology, but I don't think they're bad.
Okay.
It's similar to another Medusa situation, if we remember what happened there.
Yeah.
So they are called Cyprian centaurs, and they have a sad backstory. So one day Zeus was very attracted to Aphrodite, who some will remember is Zeus's daughter. Yeah. And he chased Aphrodite, but Aphrodite was too fast running away. So I have some quotes here.
Oh, no.
Zeus, quote, shot out the hot foam of love self-sown, or dropped on the ground the love shower of seed from the generative plow.
Oh, no.
So for those of you who aren't, familiar with reading ancient Greek prose, Zeus had a fun time with himself after Aphrodite evaded him, and that fun time spilled on the ground. But in ancient Greece, in their mythology, the ground was a being. The ground was Gaia. And so Gaia became impregnated.
Oh, that's very unfortunate for Gaia. She had no say in this.
Isn't it? I feel so bad. Anytime someone spills their seed on the ground, Gaia's getting pregnant. It's just so unfortunate.
Or even
for
like
her.
if someone spills a beer, is Gaia getting drunk? If someone spills hot sauce, is she feeling spicy pains?
Yeah, she's getting heartburn.
Someone spills cough syrup, she can't operate heavy machinery for 4 to 6 hours. Ugh.
Yeah, it's a real chore being the personification of the earth. But out of that union, these horned centaurs emerge from the ground, and they seem like lovely dudes, actually. They become fertility spirits that accompany Aphrodite, which is very appropriate since Zeus was trying to chase her. But I don't think they're bad.
Okay. All right. So they're different, not bad, but just that's how they're showing up in this book series.
Right. They have horns because they represent Zeus's lust.
Ooh, okay. And then what is the parentage for centaurs? Is that similar to Cyclopes, where it's like, oh yeah, Cyclopes is with Poseidon and nymphs? How do centaurs come about?
There are a few different types of centaurs, just like there are a few different types of cyclops.
Okay.
And so I think some of the centaurs were through unions of gods with more primordial beings. I don't think any of the centaurs, well, except for these, are children of Gaia and Tartarus. But there is one original centaur in some of the myths. His name is Ixion.
Okay.
And in some stories, I think he's like the offspring of gods and he just, has a horse body. In others, I think there's like a curse that's put on him. So centaurs can be formed in many ways.
Okay. Very cool. All right. Sweet. I'm intrigued to see how the centaurs really find their way throughout the series, just because like in this initial introduction, it's like, oh yeah, new crop of monster henchmen. And I think just that new twist of, oh my gosh, we have to come to grips with not all centaurs being good was a really fun kind of shock value moment when we're getting into the Roman stuff.
Well, that's interesting to me because in classic mythology, the centaurs without the horns are often seen as like savages and bad characters. So it's interesting to me that Uncle Rick has flipped them.
Yeah, I think that's weirdly what served as the inspiration for the movie adaptation of the Percy Jackson books, which is atrocious. That one, they play at more of the wild nature of the centaurs, more like a Harry Potter centaur, where they're these beasts that roam and gallop about and aren't tamed, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Okay, so the next thing on the list, there's quite a bit of play for Pericliminus, who I am only saying it that way because at least when they say his name the first time, the character introduction, for the help of the reader, they go Pericliminus. Nice. But let me know if that's not how you say it. But he's an Argonaut. He is the Prince of Pylos, I believe. He is, in this book, the basis for Frank Zhang being able to shapeshift into any animal. So what's up with Pericliminus?
Yes. Look, I don't know how to pronounce things. I'm all over the internet mispronouncing things. So Pericliminus, sure. He is the son of King Neleus, who is the king of Pylos. And Neleus is said to be a son of Poseidon. So Pericliminus is the grandson of Poseidon. And so Poseidon has granted him the ability to shapeshift into different forms. And he is an Argonaut. He's one of the heroes on the Argonaut ship with Jason, but he's not one of the more talked about Argonauts. He's just like listed as one of the heroes on the ship. Okay. And really his claim to fame is that he was killed by Heracles when Heracles comes to Pylos for some reason. It seems that he has some sort of revenge plot against King Neleus. Either King Neleus has like neglected to forgive Heracles for his deeds in the past, or maybe King Neleus like stole a herd of cattle that Heracles needed to get for his 12 labors. Whatever the case is, Heracles had something against King Neleus. So he goes to this kingdom and just wrecks stuff. He just comes in like a wrecking ball. And Pericliminus, he fights Heracles off. He transforms into all of these different shapes, including a swarm of bees.
Yes, okay, that does get mentioned in the Percy Jackson
Really?
books. Yeah, which is
Good.
really cool.
But apparently Heracles is not allergic to bees, so it doesn't do anything. And Pericliminus, unfortunately, is slain.
Man, that's interesting that he would be not necessarily one of the more talked about Argonauts. Is it common for an Argonaut to have a magical ability like that? Or
yeah, I mean, a lot of them were heroes, and many of the ancient Greek heroes were demigods. So they were related to a divine character who gave them some sort of ability. Yeah, so the fact that he has this ability but isn't a bigger character in the Argonaut story isn't that surprising to me.
Okay, it makes sense, but in my mind, it was like, you got Jason and then the Argonauts, they're just like a bunch of dudes. It would be very funny if it was just like, we're all normal sailors. Oh yeah, and there's Pericliminus, he could turn into any animal, but we're not gonna talk about him that much. You know,
right.
Writing the tale of Jason, it's like blah 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 footnote. Yeah, there was this other guy.
But that's totally how it would go, right? If a bunch of sailor bros got back from a trip, like they would want to leave out their special friend who made them all feel bad from the story.
It's true. That seems right. So around this time in the story, we now learn about some of the moments like you're talking about with Hercules/Heracles, about you have demigods having complicated relationships, specifically with new characters in the book at this point in time, the Amazons. So the Amazons show up, and we talked about them a decent amount on the actual episode that I did, but we didn't talk enough about like some of the other in-between things. So they kind of like mention some of their relations with the demigods when they are first confronted with our team. So one of the first things they bring up is about fighting for King Priam in the Trojan War and Achilles killing their queen, the Amazonian queen, Penthesilea. So what's up with that?
Yeah, I say Penthesilea. Penthesilea is probably right.
Okay.
Probably closer to accurate. So usually the Amazons kept away from men and the goings-on of the Greeks. But Penthesilea agreed to fight for the side of Troy. And people aren't totally sure why. Like, there are different accounts. By some, she was just paid really well. King Priam just like gave her a bunch of gold and brought in the Amazons as mercenaries. In other stories, Penthesilea feels so much guilt for accidentally killing her sister, another queen of the Amazons, Hippolyta or Hippolyte. And that guilt drives her to, I guess, want to punish herself to death. But as an Amazon, she has to die in battle or else it's not honorable. So she goes to an especially deadly battle just to deal with that herself. In the Battle of Troy, in the Trojan War, she is killed by Achilles. But there are a couple accounts that say that after Achilles deals the killing blow, Penthesilea falls to the ground and her helmet falls off. And in the brief moment that they see each other before she dies, they fall in love.
Oh, no. How tragic.
I know. But Achilles is also said to be in love with Patroclus, right? You know, people love to add those types of dramatic stories to the battlefield.
Okay. Wow. All right. Interesting. And there's more things that they say. They say before this took place, Heracles stole Queen Hippolytes,
who knows?
Queen H's belt. Was that one of the 12 labors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the 9th labor by most accounts. So Ares gave Hippolyte, let's go with that. Ares gave Queen H this magical belt or this magical girdle that would give her superhuman strength.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. She was already strong. She was already a good fighter. That's why Ares gave her the belt in the first place. Although by some accounts, she was Ares's daughter or granddaughter. And so she was this fierce warrior with this belt. And King Eurystheus, who is the king who gave Heracles all of his labors, he wanted this belt for his daughter. So he sent Heracles all the way to go and battle with the Amazons to get this belt. And when Heracles got there, there was a little tussle. and he ended up killing Queen H. In my favorite version of the story, Hera's the one to mess it all up. I love when Hera and Heracles have messy drama. So Heracles gets to the shore. He sails on a ship with some other heroes to go to the Amazon homeland. And when he arrives on the shore, Queen H goes to meet him, and the other Amazons hang back until Hera comes down to Earth and starts like whispering into the ears of the Amazons that Heracles is about to kill their queen. So they attack first. And as Heracles sees them running down the beach, he stabs Queen H and he takes her belt, and all of the heroes get back on the ship and turn away.
Hera. Oh, man. The manipulation. Ooh.
I know. It's so evil.
That's so dastardly.
I say as I cackle.
Now, in the books, they describe this belt as being this really cool gold interlocking belt. Is the actual belt described in one particular way in mythology, or does it just take different shapes and forms?
It takes different shapes and forms. Sometimes it's called a belt. Sometimes it's a girdle.
Yeah.
Right? Like, really, there's this thing that clearly Queen H wore close to her body that was valuable in some way, and other people wanted it.
It's in the waist department, but we don't know exactly what it is. Maybe a hula hoop in the future.
Right. It's something that lives around the middle third of the body.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. The book describes it as this really cool belt that a character is wearing. It's like, man, that's pretty sweet. Like, instead of a crown, you got a cool belt. Like, yeah, that's way more functional than a crown. Keep your pants up, look sweet. Yeah.
I think in this imagining of Greek figures living to modern day, they have the magic that they will transform their ancient relics into the modern equivalent. And that's what the belt would turn into today.
That makes sense. You're right. Yeah, that happens in the PGO books. Yeah, good call. Okay, and then the last thing in this little Amazons and demigods thing that gets brought up is long before this, there is a hero named Bellerophon who killed their first queen, Otrera, and Otrera does have some play in this book. She gets resurrected because Gaia has. I had to say Gaia properly. Have I clued you into how I've been saying Gia for these?
Yeah, the last time.
Yeah. All right, sweet. Gia has people returning from the underworld. She's opened the doors of death, so Otrera comes back, and then there's this whole fight for the throne thing with the current queen, but they tell the tale, or at least they allude to the tale, of Bellerophon killing Otrera. So what is the tale of Bellerophon doing this?
Yes. So Otrera, first queen of the Amazons, she was either the bride or the daughter of Ares. So in some way connected to Ares and a follower of Artemis. She's the first person to really bring the Amazons together and devote them to the goddess Artemis.
That's cool. And that makes sense because you think of a lot of similarities between Artemis's hunters and them. So it's cool that there's like actually a basis for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, she built a temple for Artemis and everything. Bellerophon was the son of either Poseidon or a Corinthian king who, when Bellerophon was conceived, it may have been Poseidon pretending to be this king. That happens a lot.
Drama.
I know, all the time. But he was this huge hero in the time of ancient Greece before Heracles, but he killed his brother. And that was such a faux pas at the time that he was exiled.
At the time. I know what you're saying, but it's so funny. Like, back in the day, you couldn't just kill your brother.
No, thousands of years ago, you couldn't do that. You're right. That was a taboo. Full stop. And he was exiled from Corinth, and he went to Tiryns, a kind of nearby country where King Proetus ruled. And so he was there for a little bit, and King Proetus's wife took a liking. She took a little fancy to Bellerophon. But Bellerophon was wise, and he did not follow her advances. He turned her down.
Good, Bellerophon.
As he should. She didn't like that. She went to her husband and was like, Bellerophon tried to force himself upon me. So then King Proetus was like, well, I got to get rid of this guy. He has done some egregious things. But part of good hospitality in ancient Greece was that you cannot kill one of your guests.
Okay, of course. Sure. Again, back then, that would have been a faux pas.
Back then. All right. It's on the same level as killing your brother.
Okay.
So Proetus didn't want to be punished for killing his guest. So he sent Bellerophon to his father-in-law, who was a king in Lycia. Bellerophon goes to Lycia to King Iobates, and King Iobates keeps trying to give Bellerophon impossible tasks so that Bellerophon will die, but he won't have to kill him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of these tasks include going to kill the Chimera and a couple other monsters. So Bellerophon became known as this really powerful monster slayer. He also tamed the Pegasus. He caught and tamed the Pegasus. And then one of these tasks that Iobates assigned to him was to go and steal something from the Amazon Queen, much like Heracles, or like fight the Amazon Queen or something. But Bellerophon went to the Amazons and he fought with Otrera, who King Iobates assumed would kill Bellerophon. But it didn't happen. So he walked away from that unscathed. And part of why you see this cycle repeating over and over again, where there's a Greek hero who kills a queen of the Amazons, is because the Amazons were the fiercest nearby warriors in myth. But they were women. And so it was impressive when the Greek heroes beat them because they were so renowned, but it was always known that they were going to beat them because they were women.
So
yeah. So it was kind of just like the go-to plot device in a lot of epic poems and a lot of mythic poems back then. I did a whole episode actually on Fate and Fabled about the truth behind the Amazon myths. It turns out it's this group of nomads from the Eurasian steppes who kind of got wormed into this myth by the Greeks.
Ooh.
They were real people.
Oh, I'll have to check it out. Sounds fantastic. Okay, we're going to take our mid-roll break here, the myth roll break, where we will talk about updates of the podcast and what's going on, whether that be live shows or Patreon things or new merchandise or whatever. And then we'll get back for the final discussions of myths. Hello and welcome to the Myth Roll Break, Italy edition. Italy? Mike, I thought you were in Switzerland. Yes, I'm currently in Milan because flying back to New York from Milan was easier time-wise and better price-wise. So yes, after the show in Zurich that we did on Sunday, shout out to everyone who came through, we hopped on a train like an hour after we were done packing up after the show and trained over to Italy. And now we're having a little like half day here and then flying home. And it's great. So yes, hello, buongiorno, if you will. But let's get into updates and stuff with the podcast. So we are currently in the in-between book phase. That means we've got some scheduling stuff to go over because you might be wondering what's next. If you're ever wondering what's next on the Noose Olympian, you can go to thenooseolympian.com/about and it will always have what's ahead for the next 4 episodes. So after this myth episode, we're going to have 4 episodes covering the 4 stories within the Demigod Diaries, which is one of the expansion side companion books that Rick wrote. In terms of release order, it did release between The Son of Neptune and The Mark of Athena, which is why I'm covering it now. Some of the stories are Percy Jackson-y stuff. Some of the stories are Heroes of Olympus-y stuff. One of them is separate, but all 4 stories are really fun in their own unique way, and that is what we're going to be covering for the next 4 episodes. And then after that, we will get into The Mark of Athena. But if you don't want to wait a month for us to get into our Mark of Athena coverage, you don't have to, because the stream that we did a while back is now available for purchase on the TNO Patreon shop. So if you go to thenooseolympian.com/Patreon, you can go over to the shop. You don't have to be a patron. You can get access to this without joining the Patreon. Or if you're in like the free tier of Patreon where you just get some occasional updates and stuff, you can also just download this. You can also join the Patreon while you're there if you want to, if you're so inclined, but you can just go to the TNO Patreon shop and then you can get that replay, which has us doing the first 2 chapters and a little bit of chapter 3 of Mark of Athena. And then there's a Potterless Act as well, and then there's a really fun Q&A. It's incredibly high quality. The video team that we brought in had 3 cameras, and it was super professional visually, audio-wise, and the stream that you get is in crystal clear HD, and you can stream that on the Patreon as well. And then if you did buy a stream ticket, check your inbox for the email that you used, because I sent a download link for the file. So if you had the stream, now you can just download it for free because you already bought a ticket. You don't have to buy the video again. And if you are having any issues watching that stream on Patreon, at least one person messaged me saying that it kept skipping around because it is a pretty big file. Shoot me a message on Patreon and then I can email you a link where you can download it as well. If you can't get the stream aspect to work or if you can't download the video thing from Patreon, let me know. Now, I did mention some live show related stuff. And we've got other live shows coming up in the near future, not in Europe, but in America. We've got 4 shows on the docket currently. So August 14th, I'll be in St. Louis. August 18th, I'll be in Kansas City, Missouri. September 13th, I'll be in Providence, Rhode Island. And then on September 28th, I'll be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I will also be in St. Louis, Missouri, not just for that live show on the 14th, but also August 15th through 17th. I will be there for Enchanticon, which is the new name for LeakyCon, since it is becoming an all fandom type thing and really trying to embrace that. I'll be doing TNO stuff. I'll be doing Potterless stuff. I'll be doing other stuff there as well. So you can get tickets to all of the TNO shows at thenewsolympian.com/live. And for Enchanticon tickets, you can go to enchanticon.com. And I think if you use the promo code SHUBS, you get 10% off, but I'm not positive. Try Shubes, try Potterless, try the Newest Olympian. Let me know if the promo codes work. But I think there's at least one promo code set up for me if you want to get tickets to that. And a final little fun update. We recently passed 10 million downloads for the Newest Olympian, which is absolutely ridiculous. That is super cool. This podcast is not even 4 years old. We launched in September of 2021. This is May of 2025, and we've hit 10 million downloads. That is ridiculous. I really appreciate all of your support, for everyone who has listened, for everyone who has re-listened, for everyone that has convinced other people to listen, for everyone that has dragged a friend or a significant other or a parent to a live show, and then they started listening. Thank you. Really, podcast growth happens via word of mouth, so I am fully well aware that I would not be able to be celebrating this 10 million download number without the help of all you lovely listeners. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I did mention the Patreon, so I want to give a shout out to the folks who have joined the Patreon most recently. Shout out to our new Super God tier patron, Megan Krizar. Shout out to our newest God tier patrons, How Did Wes Lose Riptide? And Ainsk with an underscore afterwards. And then shout out to our newest Demigod tier patrons, Ranger of Frost, Ruby Sailor, Griffin Maley, and Kirsten Guntley. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hermes, the god of travelers, help you navigate all of the different means of transportation that countries have to offer. In Switzerland, we went on trains and planes and ferries and gondolas and trams and many other things. And we did all right. So I hope if you are traveling in a place that has many complex modes of getting around, that Hermes watches out for you. Now, if you're all caught up on the Newest Olympian and you're looking for some new content to consume, you are in luck, because I do a whole bunch of stuff. I do a bunch of podcasts, but I also do things that are not podcasts. And one of the things that I do that is not a podcast is a D&D stream that I do with some other podcasters called 20 to Midnight. We stream us playing D&D. I play a bard, and it's a super fun story where we are heroes trying to save the world that has a ticking clock ever ticking closer towards destruction. And can our heroes save the day? Find out by watching it. It's on Twitch. You can go to 20tomidnight.com and it'll take you to the Twitch, or you can watch all of the replays of our streams on YouTube. Just search for 20 to Midnight, 20 midnight on YouTube, and then you can watch all of the replays of the streams. It's super fun. It's a good time, and I think you'll enjoy it. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon or you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in Italy, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in Italian. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of The Newest Olympian. Okay, and we're back, and we're here next with a bit of a change of pace, but a fun one. It's Arion, our immortal horse friend, who is at least described in this book as being the son of Neptune and Ceres. Is Arion a famous mythological creature? Because I feel like when I did a live show episode, I haven't posted it on the feed yet, about Percy Jackson's Greek Gods, which is a book where Percy kind of like narrates a Greek gods and goddesses textbook, basically. Ooh. It's very fun. I think in the Demeter chapter, he's like, oh yeah, and one of her kids was a horse, ha ha ha, like a side comment. And then months later, now Arion is in my life.
Yes. A real character, for sure.
Cool.
Arion from Greek mythology, because I like that they're mixing Greek and Roman and other pantheons here, is the offspring of Poseidon and Demeter. Demeter is the Greek equivalent of Ceres. And again, it's not great.
The story is, I think we actually did cover the story in that, but please, people haven't heard it because it was like a live show I did and I even posted the audio from it, but yeah, it's super yikes.
It's, a classic Greek tale of one of the Olympian gods seeing a woman and needing to have her. So Poseidon saw Demeter while she was looking for Persephone. Demeter is literally searching the globe for her missing daughter, and Poseidon sees her and is like, gotta have it. So
And they're related. She's
yes.
his
sister.
Yeah.
Sister.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not awesome.
No.
But Poseidon sees her and chases her. Demeter turns into a mare. She turns into a horse and runs away and joins this herd of horses. And in the accounts that I read, they made it sound like Poseidon shapeshifted into a horse and then like tricked her. They said that he like tricked her into coupling. The way I'm picturing it is that she just really didn't want to get it on with Poseidon, but she saw another horse and she didn't recognize that it was Poseidon. And she was like, yeah, I'm down, which is still not okay, right? Poseidon doing that when she doesn't know who he is, still not okay.
Not okay.
But so they couple as horses, and then Demeter gives birth to Arion, who is this fast, strong, immortal horse who then kind of just gets passed from one hero or king to the next. Heracles, I think, was his second handler after Arion was born, and then Heracles passed him on to some king afterwards.
Okay. Are there any particular magical abilities that Arion has in mythology? Because in the Percy Jackson books, he's just super fast. He curses like a sailor, and he can run so fast that he can run on top of water. Like he is Jesus Christ. But does he have any mythological magical abilities, or is it just like he's a really good horse?
He's just a really fast horse. That's what people comment on in the myths, that yes, he's immortal, but the thing that they harp on is always how fast he is. So that seems accurate.
Yeah, that's his defining characteristic in The Son of Neptune. The Amazons credit him as being the fastest being on Earth, but he can only be ridden by a proper worthy warrior. And then one of our characters, Hazel, turns out to be that proper warrior who can ride him. And she's a big horse girl. It's great.
Love a horse girl.
Love a horse girl.
We have Lord of the Rings because of horse girls.
Yes. Gosh. And also Arion, he eats precious metals. Now, that could be because Hazel, our character, is a daughter of Pluto, and she can make precious metals rise from the ground. I don't know that has any sort of like, oh, yeah, and he also ate imperial gold
I didn't see anything like that. But, he's been around for a long time. Maybe he's developed really fine tastes.
Sure. Or it's one of those things, he's so old that was a thing, kind of like how we have appendices just because we used to eat raw meat and stuff. And it's one of those things. So like, oh, well, yeah, back in my day, we used to eat metal. Like that was a tasty snack.
I'm pretty sure we talked about appendices and eating raw meat in my last episode, too.
Look, it's going to come up, right? Mythology, the myth of why do we have this damn thing inside of us that can rupture and then you have to get it out, otherwise it might kill you. Oh, yeah, you used to have to do that because you ate raw meat. Then we learned about grilling. Except for France, they were like, how about steak tartare? And I was like, how about you cook it?
And then they were like, how about frogs and snails? Let's just really go far.
I gotta say, I've had frog legs, but only at a Cajun restaurant, not at like a proper French restaurant. Pretty good. And then snails, escargot, they just load it up with so much garlic and butter that you can't tell. Right. You can't really tell.
It's just butter snot.
Yeah, it's good. We eat other like things of that consistency. Like, I guess snails are like kind of more gross than clams or mussels because we see them moving on the ground and stuff. So that's a little more bleh. But I don't know, I had escargot. Really, the limiting factor of me not eating more escargot in France was not the gross factor. It was the price, because it was just like, these are very expensive and it's not that much food and it just tastes like I'm eating butter. So I don't need to have this. I had it once because obviously, and then I was like, I think I'm good. Check. Now, if it's presented to me in a place where I don't have to pay for it, I'm pounding escargot, but I'm not going to be ordering it. No, I got to save that for other food that I want to try.
That will actually fill you up.
Yeah. But to bring it back, that's where I learned, like, I knew tartare just like wasn't for me. My brain just can't get over it. I think the first time I had it was in Germany. It was just like, the whole time I was eating, I was just like, this is wrong. This is supposed to be cooked. So I didn't have a lot of it. And then there was a time where I ordered something, it might have just been a hamburger or something like that, where it was supposed to be like, I was thinking I was getting like a grilled patty of sorts, but because I ordered this in Paris, it was super raw. And I was just like, all right. And like, It ended up being good, but it was just one of those things of like, it was funny on the tartar scale of France where a cooked patty was like, I think they put it on the grill like seared on the outside, but then still like quite red on the inside. It's like, this is cooked. Cool.
Oh, no. If I ordered a burger and someone gave me tartare, I would burn the whole place down so that everything there would be well cooked from now on.
It's the trouble of when you are an American in Paris, because anytime you're given something, you just have to be like, well, this is correct. I'm wrong. Right. I'm incorrect. I can't make a scene. I goofed. I messed up. One time I ordered a sausage that the waiter tried to warn me was very intense, and I thought they meant like gamey, but it basically just meant like very intestine-y and tripe and all that kind of stuff. Oh. And it was just like, this was my mistake. I came to a restaurant where they speak French, and I didn't speak French, and I ordered the wrong thing. Like, that's on me. I can't get upset at them. Oopsie poopsie, my bad. Moving on. The next question I had for you is there any mythological element to the Battle of Carrhae, or is that just a way for Rick to establish the way for Sun Guo, who I believe is an original character in the Heroes of Olympus series, how Sun Guo, Frank Zhang's descendant, came to be a Chinese captive that was then taken captive by Romans after this battle?
I couldn't find anything mythical about it, just historical. Like, it was a real battle that happened. I don't know if you talked about that in the episode.
Not much other than just like it was mentioned in the way that it was explained to Frank, how he has this interesting lineage of a Chinese background, but he also has like a ancient Roman background, and then eventually they worked their way over to Canada. So he gets explained it to him by his grandmother rather quickly. She doesn't get into the particulars of the Battle of Carrhae too much, except for just like who was fighting and how you get someone from China over to be in Rome.
Yeah, I think that it's a practical thing to get this character in the right place. So it was a real battle that was fought in 53 BCE. So a long time ago, between Rome and the Parthian Empire. I had actually never heard of the Parthian Empire.
First time I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, it was this empire in what is now Iran. So like between the West and the East, like very much a central location, which is why it makes sense that people from China and Rome would both have been there. It is, according to many historians, like the biggest defeat in Rome's history.
Oof.
Yeah. They took 7 legions. 7 Roman legions is about 30,000 soldiers. It's more than that.
Oh my gosh.
And they were summarily defeated. About 20,000 people died from the Romans. About 10,000 people were taken as prisoner. And the reason it really didn't go in their favor was because it was in this open plain. And in that part of like Eurasia, people were really good at riding horses. Okay. This is part of what inspired the Amazon myth. People were so fast and agile on horses because they didn't wear much armor. And they were doing like bows and arrows and not as many heavy swords and shields. Okay. So the Romans came in with all of their armor, and their horses had all of their armor and their heavy weapons, and they just couldn't maneuver fast enough on this open field with all of these Parthian soldiers. And so they just got destroyed.
Wow. I mean, sad for the Romans, but we love a war where there's a new strategy unveiled and people just get decimated. And I think it's fun whether it's on land, on sea. You have I forget the name of the guy who like invented like the turtle shell boat, like these sorts of things where, just a new thought is brought into the mix, and just the strategy just wreaks havoc on the opponents. Oh, man.
Yes. Also love an underdog story. Like Rome went in thinking that they were going to wipe the floor with this little army. I think they were outnumbered, the Parthians, and still just like the home field advantage really worked in their favor.
Yeah, and the planning, the strategy. I mean, it comes up in this book where Frank pulls off a very strategic move to conquer a villain. And he says that part of the gift that he has from his father, Mars, is the strategic element, kind of like an Athena sort of thing. But for Mars here, it's more of, he says you can win a war before even starting it just with good planning by being in the right positioning. That is one. So I didn't actually have this as a question to you, but I'm wondering if you just know enough about it. Mars shows up in this book as one of the godly parents of a new character, Frank, and Ares in the Percy Jackson books is a huge jerk. Mars is way cooler. Still got some of the tough guy vibes of Ares, but he's much more caring as a parent. He has more honor and respect toward Frank's mother, who was a soldier, and he just overall seems like a better dude. I was wondering, is there a basis of that for Roman versus Greek? I know Roman mythology like really had a high emphasis in it, and Mars was much more on a higher pedestal compared to Ares. Would that be the reasoning, or did Mars like have a different description and depiction than just like, oh yeah, he's Roman Ares?
A little bit of both. I think the fact that the Romans held their war god in such high esteem gave him more likable characteristics because they needed him to be more likable according to their culture, right? And then Uncle Rick needed to translate that to our modern culture. Whereas the Greeks, like, they fought, but they didn't fight like the Romans. War was not as big a part of their culture, so they didn't need to respect Ares as much as Mars was.
Gotcha.
So he's just like more of a goof and more of the butt of more jokes.
Oh, okay. All right. And then the Romans like war so much that they have a war goddess Bellona, right? What's the dynamic between them that you have two gods seemingly of the same thing, or do they kind of like cover different elements of war?
Yeah, I don't know the Roman family tree as well. I know that she's not just like the Roman equivalent of Athena,
right?
Because that would be Minerva. But when cultures value something, they're more likely to see different sides of it as distinct. And so they're more likely to come up with deities that oversee those distinct aspects of it. So like, to us, war is war, but to them, war is strategy. It's, having the appropriate stuff on the field. And so there are lots of different things to take care of. So they would give more gods to it to oversee wartime, but I don't know enough about her specifically to see what the differences are.
Yeah, I get it though. It would be like if there was a country that did not value basketball as much as America, and you would have, yes, this is the god of basketball, whereas in America it's like, okay, we have the god of 3-point shooting, we have the god of 2-point shooting, we have the god of defense. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yep, that's not the analogy that I had in my head, but it works.
This is what I'm bringing to the table. Diversity of thought. Let's go.
That's why it's important, actually. This is why diverse perspectives are so important.
God. Oh, God. We're recording this April of 2025 for context, if that wasn't clear enough. Gross. Anyway, mythological stuff that is more fun to think about. So there are ogres that show up in this book, and there is a point in which our heroes have to fend them off, and they're doing so from the Zhang family mansion, which has a potato gun turret set up in their attic window to fire off at enemies. At one point, a character states that starch is bad for ogres. Is this anything, or is this Rick being like, yeah?
I think it's something. Okay. I couldn't find much, but I did find an Icelandic piece of folklore that may have inspired it.
Okay.
So in Iceland, there's this ogre couple, and I know I'm going to really get their names wrong, but it's Grilla is the ogress. She's an independent ogress. Her third husband is Lepaludi. Okay. That translates roughly to rag oaf.
Rag oaf.
Yeah, he's just an oaf of rags.
Okay.
Together, they spend their time hunting and eating children who misbehave. So this is really wrapped up in Icelandic folklore, like eat your vegetables, get home on time, do your homework, or else Grilla and Lepaludi will get you and they'll eat you.
Okay.
But some Santa traditions have bled into this folklore. So now Grilla has 13 sons who are called the Yule Lads.
Yule Lads!
And these Yule Lads will leave rotten potatoes in the shoes of naughty children every Yule time.
Ooh, okay.
That's the only connection between potatoes and ogres that I could find. It doesn't seem to be related to like ogres or trolls under the bridge. I couldn't find anyone like throwing cornstarch on an ogre or anything. It's just Uncle Rick has an imagination.
That's great. I love it. That's so funny. Of all the rotten things to get in your shoe, a rotten potato doesn't seem too bad because it doesn't seem like it would leak and seep out. Like a rotten potato is going to just have mold on it. It's not going to look good. It'll have weird spots and discoloration, but it's not like a rotten tomato or a rotten banana or a rotten piece of fruit that like seeps and dribbles out. So it could be a lot worse. Yeah,
You're right.
Okay.
It's not even that squishy.
Nah, you just like kind of turn your shoe over and be like, all right, we're okay. Yeah.
The Yule lads really aren't trying to ruin your day.
Yeah, they want to hinder you and they want to teach you a lesson, but they don't want to be jerks about it. They don't want to really set you back, just enough so that you learn your lesson. Okay, now the last thing that had come up that I wanted to talk to you about was griffins. So griffins in this book are different than what I would have thought griffins were, mainly because of my Harry Potter backing. But in this book, they are more leopard-like and they have big wings. They are very large. And then they have metal nests where they protect their eggs, but they also seem to be taking various things, kind of like scavenger types. That feels different than what I had in my head. So I'm wondering, is this the more accurate sort of description of griffins? And somehow we were led astray into people thinking they are lions with wings? What's going on with griffins?
They are lions with wings. But I would say that this depiction seemed fairly accurate based on how you described it. And honestly, it's not shocking to me that Rick would be better at staying faithful to the myths than JK.
Yeah, I mean, look. That,
So, canonically, the griffins have the head and wings of an eagle and the body and tail of a lion, and the front paws have eagle talons on them. Although Pausanias, who was a writer and a historian in like the 2nd century, he said, I have also heard that griffoi have spots like the leopard. So there is some basis for them having leopard spots.
That makes sense. And like, to be fair, when you think about it, leopards and lions aren't that drastically different.
Right.
Once you get past like the mane.
Yeah, so very similar. And because the eagle is considered the king of the birds and the lion is considered the king of the beasts, the griffin is just like the king of the magical beasts, very regal, very majestic, and so often associated with gold. And actually, the ancient Greeks said that the griffins came from a distant land to the east, which was India, because there are a lot of gold imports coming from India at the time, but it's really hard to go and get the gold yourself. And so the griffin guards these mountains of gold in the far east and also build their nests out of the gold in the mountains that they guard. There was a line by Aeschylus that said, beware the sharp-beaked hounds of Zeus that do not bark. And so they are associated with Zeus in some way, probably just because of their majestic nature. Eagle nature. Yeah. But really they're like these regal beings surrounded by gold. So it makes sense that they would have their metal nests. I have in the past heard that you can't lie around griffins.
Ooh.
But I went searching for this and I couldn't find any mythical foundation to it, just some like TV show that said it in the 90s, which is probably where I heard it, and it stuck with me ever since. So
Do you know which show that was?
No, I don't. It was like some military, like MASH almost, but not quite MASH. But yeah, attached to Zeus, lots of gold. And in the book, was it all gold nests or any type of metal?
I think it was just all types of metal. I don't think it was specifically just gold, but it mentioned that like there was a lot. I think gold seemed to be like the most common of the metals that was there.
You know, the markets shift. It would make sense to me if the Griffins were like, we need to diversify.
Yeah, especially in these April 2025 times. Gotta have that diverse portfolio because, oh boy.
I learned today that gold is more valuable than platinum again.
Okay.
You got to stay on top of these things if you're a Griffin.
You do. If you're a Griffin, you do. And if you're a podcaster who doesn't really want to take an interest in financial stuff, you get a very good financial planner and you have a call with them every quarter and you go, yeah. And they go, we're doing stuff. And I go, that sounds good. Yeah.
That sounds smart.
Look, it's one of those things where if I can pay someone so that I don't ever have to really think too much about investment strategy type things, that's worth it. People will sometimes be like, oh, those investment things are like you pay people, like you could be making that money yourself if you just do it yourself. I'm like, but on the flip side, I don't have to do it myself. And I can focus on other things like making podcasts, which I am better at doing. Well, Dr. Moiya, this was a delight as it always is. This was super fun. Great to learn about so many different things. I'm excited to see how it continues to develop as we get further into this series and if more mythological elements come into play. But in the meantime, if people want to find you doing stuff, where can they find you doing stuff?
Yeah, you can find me on any of the socials at GoAstroMo. My website is moiyamctier.com. Or you could look directly for my stuff where they are. I host a podcast called Pale Blue Pod, which is an astronomy podcast for people who are kind of scared of the universe, trying to make it cozy and familiar for you. I have a book called The Milky Way, which came out a couple years ago if you want to learn about the history of the universe from our galaxy's own point of view. And like Mike said up at the top of the episode, I'm writing another book right now called Mothers of Invention, which is a history of creativity and human innovation told from the perspective of the 9 muses from Greek mythology. So it's really nice to be here talking about myths because it gets me back in the mindset I need to be in for writing.
Amazing. Happy to have indirectly helped in your, I'm assuming, and I'm certain will be another fantastic Dr. Moiya literary hit.
Thank you.
But thank you again for coming on. People love these episodes, and I really appreciate you putting in the work to make them happen. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your questions.
Oh, of course. It's super easy. I just go, I don't know what this is, but I know someone who does. But thank you, Moiya. And listeners, thank you for listening. And until next time, when I believe we will either be, depending on what I want to do, the order, we'll either be doing the Demigod Diaries spin-off book, or we'll be beginning book 3. This will either come before the little break spin-off stuff or afterwards. I'm not sure quite yet, but whatever comes next, until then, I'll see you later. Hello. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanis and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you really enjoy the show and you just can't get enough, there's a couple of different things that you can do. First, you can go to patreon.com/The Newest Olympian, and you can get access to all sorts of bonus content that I post on a very regular basis. You also can find us and get involved in the community on social media. We've got an Instagram, we've got a Blue Sky, we've got a Twitter, we've got a Facebook, we've got a subreddit, we've got a Discord that's available to all patrons. If you want to support the show, you can get merch at thenewsolympian.com/merch. You can see live shows at thenewsolympian.com/live, and you can check out the aforementioned Patreon. And speaking of, I want to give a shout out to our highest tier, the Ultra God tier patrons who are helping to produce this show with their financial support. So shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Abby Ryan, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Grace, Ginger Spurs Boy, A Cup of Solace, Bradamus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jacked Son, Han Haley Hingelheimer Schmidt, Catherine Sloan, Haley Mary, Jim Jam Koopy, Kit Kat Crumbs, Andrea, not Andrea, Jordan Ray, Nico's Black Vespa, and Zayden Wintergate. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, just spreading the show via word of mouth is huge. You can tell someone directly who you think would like the show. You could post about it on social media. You could leave a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All of these things really do help, and I really appreciate anyone who has done it in the past or will do so in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode of The Newest Olympian, and I hope you tune into our next episode where we will begin covering the Demigod Diaries. We'll do the first story, which is the Diary of Luke Castellan, and of course we'll be joined by the folks from Monster Donut. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, Ace. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mix. So this ASMR Mix segment will again be another edition. No, I should leave that in. Nope, the ASMR Mike segment is baby in the background furiously unpacking our bags as we try to pack. Thank you so much for listening.
Should the ASMR be her crinkling?
Oh, no, it's just going to be exactly what that was.